It's late. The house is dark. Someone lying next to you asks a simple question, and without deciding to, you answer them in a whisper. Nobody is asleep. Nobody asks you to be quiet. There is no one in the world who could possibly be disturbed. But you lowered your voice anyway, and the strange thing is, you have been doing this your entire life. You whisper in the dark. You tiptoe past empty rooms. You feel somewhere in your chest that something might be listening. You have probably never once questioned it. It feels like a politeness, a small, automatic courtesy you picked up as a child and never thought about again. But the real answer is far stranger than that. That whisper is not a habit, it is a survival instinct, and it was installed in you hundreds of thousands of years before you were born. Tonight, pay attention to yourself. Watch what happens in the moment the lights go out. Your footsteps get softer, your breathing gets shallower, your ears seem to reach further into the room than they did a second ago. You start listening to the silence itself, as if the silence has something it wants to tell you. Why would a safe, warm, modern human being do any of that? To understand it, you have to let go of everything you assume about your place in the world. You think of yourself as the top of the food chain, the most dangerous thing in any given room, the hunter. For almost all of your history, you were the opposite of that. You were meat. Two anthropologists, Donna Hart and Robert Sussman, spent years assembling the evidence for this in their work titled Man the Hunted. Their conclusion is uncomfortable and very hard to argue with. For millions of years, your ancestors were not the predators, they were the prey. They were small, they were slow, they had no claws, no fangs, and no armor, and no fur worth mentioning. And they lived surrounded by things that were bigger, faster, and far hungrier than they were. So, how do we actually know it? We know it from the bones. In South Africa, there's a cave called Swartkrans. A scientist named C.K. Brain spent decades studying the ancient hominid remains buried inside of it. And he noticed something chilling about one particular skull, a skull belonging to an early human child. There were two neat puncture holes in the back of it. When Brain measured the distance between those two holes, they matched something exactly. They matched the spacing of the lower fangs of a leopard. And that child had not been buried by anyone, it had been caught, carried up into a tree into the dark, and dropped into a black below. Sit with that image for a second. Your distant relative hunted in the night by something with far better eyes than yours. When the sun went down, because that is the real problem with darkness, it was never the dark itself that could hurt you. It was what the dark was hiding. When the sun went down, your ancestors lost their single greatest weapon. Not strength, not speed, but vision. The one sense that told them where the danger was standing. And when you lose your eyes, you are left with only one sense that can still reach across the distance in the dark. You have your ears. This is the moment the whisper starts to make sense, because in the dark, sound becomes everything. It becomes the only warning you might get, and it works in both directions at once. You are listening for the predator, but the predator is also listening for you. There's a famous idea in a study of hearing that a scientist named Colin Cherry first described in the 1950s. He called it the cocktail party problem. It is the way your ears can lock onto one voice in a crowded, noisy room and filter out everything else. Your hearing is not a passive microphone, it's a hunter of sound, constantly deciding what matters and what does not. Now think about what that same system does at night. In the silence of dark, there is no crowd to filter, so it flips. It stops narrowing and starts opening. It reaches out into the quiet and searches it for the one sound that should not be there. Think about what a whisper physically is. When you speak normally, two small flaps in your throat, your vocal folds snap together and vibrate. That vibration is what gives your voice its pitch, its hum, its music. It is also what makes your voice loud. It is what makes it carry across a room, and it is what makes it easy to find. When you whisper, you switch that vibration off. The vocal folds stop buzzing, and all that is left is the soft rush of air, quietly shaping words. And a whisper has a remarkable property. It is very hard to locate. A full voice carries a clear, steady pitch that the listening ear can lock onto and trace straight back to a body in the dark. A whisper carries almost none of that. It is quieter, it fades faster, it smears the direction it came from into nothing. If something is out there in the black, trying to find you by sound alone, a whisper is the closest thing you have to become invisible. So the whisper was never about being polite, it was about not being found. But here is where it gets stranger, because your fear of the dark is not just an old memory sitting quietly in the corner of your mind. Your body still actively cranks it up, every single night in a way that scientists can measure in a laboratory. There is a researcher named Christian Grillen who studies fear at National Institute of Mental Health. He ran a simple and clever experiment. He measured people's startle reflex, that involuntary flinch you make when something surprises you, first in a lit room and then in total darkness. The result was clean and clear. In the dark, the very same person flinched harder. Their startle response was amplified, for no reason at all except the absence of light. Darkness alone, with no threat present anywhere, turn up the volume on their fear. Your nervous system does not wait to actually see a danger before it prepares you for one. In the dark, it simply assumes the danger is already there, already close, already watching. And it goes further still. There is a bias built quietly into your hearing that scientists call an auditory looming. A psychologist named John Newton discovered that humans consistently misjudge approaching sounds. When a sound is moving towards you, you hear it as arriving sooner and closer than it truly is. Your brain shrinks the distance on purpose. But why would your brain do something so inaccurate? It is because it is safer to be wrong. A creature that assumes the footsteps are already too close gets a head start. A creature that waits to be certain gets caught. The ones who overreacted are the ones who live long enough to become your ancestors. So look at what you're actually carrying inside you. A nervous system that flinches harder in the dark, ears that hear danger as closer than it is, hearing that opens up and searches the silence the moment the noise dies down, and a whisper ready to switch on that instant the lights go out, built to keep you from being heard. None of this was ever taught to you. Nobody sat you down and explained it. You inherited all of it, fully assembled and ready to run, from people that survived the night so that you could one day exist. And that is the twist most people never see. The fear you feel in the dark is not a weakness. It is not childishness. It is the single most successful survival strategy in your entire family line. Every ancestor of yours, without one single exception, was cautious enough in the dark to live and to have children. The reckless ones left no descendants at all. You are the endpoint of an unbroken chain of the careful. You are quite literally built from millions of years of not getting eaten. Now bring it all the way back to your own life, but because you still do every bit of this in a world where the leopard is long gone. You whisper in a dark bedroom where you are completely safe. You feel your heart rise where you cross a parking lot alone at night. You freeze for half a second in a pitch black hallway inside your home. A home you have walked through 1,000 times. Think about a small child laying in bed who will not speak above a whisper until a parent finally comes. That child is not being silly. That child is running the oldest program there is, calling for a bigger, stronger member of the group, quietly, carefully so that nothing else in the dark hears the call. Think about why horror films almost always wait for the dark to do their work. They are not inventing your fear, they are borrowing it. They simply switch off your eyes and let something that is already inside you do the rest. You are carrying a predator that no longer exists. It hunts you in the parking garages and empty stairwells and quiet houses at 3 in the morning. It has been extinct for thousands of years, and no one has ever told your body the good news. So tonight, when the house goes quiet and the lights go out, and someone beside you asks a simple question, and without deciding to, you answer them in a whisper. Now you know who you really are hiding from.